He thought he was untouchable, the most powerful man in Texas, the architect of America's harshest abortion laws. But in just 30 seconds of silence, Greg Abbott's empire began to crumble. And it was an unshakable truth, delivered by a fearless congresswoman with receipts, that turned a confident governor into a broken man. This wasn't just a hearing. It was history in the making. The marble halls of the Texas state capitol gleamed under the November sun as Governor Greg Abbott rolled through the entrance with the air of a man who owned the building, his silver hair perfectly styled, his navy suit sharp, and his trademark smirk betraying the confidence of someone who had ruled Texas politics for nearly a decade by signing the nation's most restrictive abortion laws, surviving lawsuits, and cementing himself as the face of conservative power. Outside, the air crackled with tension as protesters clashed at the Capitol gates, one side chanting "Protect women's rights," while the other shouted "Defend life." While television crews prepared for what everyone knew would be more than a routine hearing. Inside, Abbott remained calm, certain that this day would be just another performance where he spoke, the cameras rolled, and his allies applauded. But waiting at the witness table was Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, a Dallas native and former criminal defense attorney who had built her career fighting against laws that crushed real families, and who carried not only conviction but a folder of documents that threatened to shatter Abbott's carefully maintained image. At 42, Crockett was no stranger to standing alone against powerful men, her confidence forged not in rehearsed talking points but in courtrooms where every fact mattered. And as Abbott's allies whispered dismissively about the radical liberal from Dallas, she sat poised in her sharp navy blazer, ready to expose truths that Abbott had long buried. For him, this was meant to be a victory lap. For her, it was war. And when the cameras began to roll, the country would see Greg Abbott stripped of his armor, facing not just another critic, but the woman determined to deliver his most humiliating defeat. When the gavel struck in Committee Room 2E.20, the atmosphere vibrated with anticipation as reporters leaned forward, cameras locked in place, and Governor Greg Abbott adjusted his tie before delivering what he believed would be a flawless performance. "The state of Texas is proud to lead the nation in protecting innocent life," he declared, drawing thunderous applause from his supporters, who nodded with admiration as he rattled off adoption services, maternal programs, and faith-based outreach like a polished sermon. On the surface, it was perfect. Abbott framed himself as a guardian of families, his words rehearsed into a narrative of compassion. But across from him, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat calm and unshaken, her pen gliding over paper, her eyes sharp with calculation. To Abbott, her silence looked like intimidation. In truth, it was strategy. When the applause finally faded and the chairman gave her the floor, Crockett leaned back with the composure of a trial lawyer about to dismantle a witness. "Governor Abbott," she began, voice smooth but edged with steel, "you've spoken about protecting life. But according to your own Department of State Health Services, the maternal mortality rate in Texas has increased by 34% since your restrictions began." The room shifted, supporters stiffened, reporters scribbled, and Abbott's jaw tightened. He tried to recover with slogans about comprehensive approaches, but Crockett cut him off cold. "I asked for numbers, Governor, not a slogan." Then came the blow. This same report shows black women in Texas are now 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than white women. "Tell me, are you proud of those numbers?" Gasps erupted as Abbott's polished mask cracked, his lips thinning and his grip on the podium tightening while the camera zoomed in, capturing every flicker of discomfort. Each statistic Crockett delivered was a blade, cutting deeper, exposing the truth behind his rhetoric. And with every word she tightened the trap that Abbott had never seen coming. The tension in Committee Room 2E.20 thickened like storm air before a lightning strike as Abbott clung to his talking points. But Jasmine Crockett leaned forward, her eyes locked on him with unflinching resolve. "Governor," she said, lowering her voice until the silence demanded every ear lean closer, "don't look at your notes. Don't look at your staff. Look at me." Slowly, Abbott lifted his eyes, and the cameras caught the moment as Crockett's voice cut through the chamber. "Behind every number I read is a woman, a daughter, a sister, a mother, a family shattered because of decisions made in this room by you. Do you have the courage to face them?" She gestured to the gallery, where women held photos, urns, and hospital papers, their grief pressed into silence until one mother stood, raising the framed picture of her 20-year-old daughter. Abbott faltered, his voice cracking as he tried to speak, but Crockett pressed harder. Why did their children, their sisters, their wives have to die while lawyers argued whether doctors were allowed to save them? Then she opened her folder, unveiling case after case with the solemnity of a verdict. Maria Santos, forced to carry a baby doomed to die in her arms. Sarah Williams, a 16-year-old rape victim forced to flee Texas for care. And finally, a woman who nearly died waiting for treatment during a miscarriage. Abbott tried to interrupt, but Crockett's voice sliced through as she read the name. Her name was Jennifer Abbott. Gasps shook the chamber as the governor's face drained of color, his knuckles bone white against the podium. "She has your last name," Crockett said, her tone cold as steel. "She could be your daughter, your wife, your sister, and she nearly died because of you." For 30 agonizing seconds, Greg Abbott, the immovable figure of Texas politics, stood silent, exposed before the nation as the camera zoomed in on the exact moment his power cracked. The mighty governor had been reduced to nothing but silence. The silence that stretched across Committee Room 2E.20 became the spark that ignited a political firestorm. For 30 unbearable seconds, Greg Abbott's inability to speak was broadcast into millions of homes, replayed in endless loops that turned hesitation into humiliation. His staff scrambled, reporters scribbled, and the gallery erupted with grief, rage, and applause. But Jasmine Crockett never pressed further. Her silence was enough to frame his as the most devastating admission of guilt in modern Texas politics. By the time Abbott whispered a broken line about never intending harm, Crockett cut him down with evidence from his own emails. And the mask finally slipped, leaving the governor exposed not as a warrior but as a man cornered by truth. Within minutes, the clip had gone viral. Hashtags like ****# Abbott speechless, #Crockett crushes Abbott, and #30 seconds of silence *** trended across Twitter. TikTok edits amplified every tremble of his hands, and late-night hosts roasted the untouchable governor reduced to silence. CNN and MSNBC ran wall-to-wall coverage, calling it a political Hiroshima, while even Fox News, forced to cover the viral moment, struggled to spin a defense. Survivors and families stepped forward. Maria Santos describing her 3 hours of grief, Sarah Williams' mother demanding justice for her daughter, doctors breaking their silence about women dying under Abbott's laws, and their words cut deeper than politics ever could. Praise for Crockett poured in nationally, Democrats hailing her as a hero while even Republicans whispered that Abbott had looked weak, the one thing a Texas politician could never afford. By the time his motorcade slipped quietly from the Capitol, the storm had already broken wide open. What began as a hearing had become a reckoning, reshaping Texas politics in real time and sending a warning shot across the nation. The governor's silence had not just ended a speech, it had written the first line of his political obituary. When Jasmine Crockett walked into that committee room, she was still a rising figure in Texas politics, a sharp attorney-turned congresswoman from Dallas admired for her fire but not yet a household name. By the time she walked out, she was a national phenomenon. The clip of her dismantling Greg Abbott didn't just go viral. It became the defining political moment of the year. Within hours, her campaign site nearly crashed under the weight of donations, thousands of small-dollar contributions pouring in with notes like "For Maria," "For Sarah," "For Jennifer Abbott." Cable networks fought for her first exclusive, late-night shows begged to book her, and hashtags like ****Crockett for Senate *** trended as activists and voters alike rallied around her. Planned Parenthood, NARAL, and grassroots coalitions hailed her as a model for accountability, while the Democratic establishment elevated her as proof that truth could still puncture power. Fashion blogs praised her bold red blazer, memes celebrated her calm composure, and TikToks declared she wasn't just a politician, she was a movement. For Abbott, the damage was permanent. His silence replayed endlessly on TV, in classrooms, on protest signs, and in campaign ads. Polls showed sharp declines among suburban women, donors grew hesitant, and whispers of presidential ambition evaporated overnight. Even his allies struggled to defend him, as the image of grieving mothers confronting him on live television refused to fade. His aura of strength had cracked, and it never recovered. But Crockett's moment became more than political theater. It was a cultural earthquake. Her cross-examination was studied as a blueprint for holding the powerful accountable, meticulous preparation, undeniable evidence, and unflinching courage. The real legacy, however, lay in the women whose story she carried into that room. Maria Santos, Sarah Williams, Jennifer Abbott, names that became symbols of the human cost behind policy. Their testimonies, once ignored, now resonated nationwide, shaping the conversation on reproductive rights. As one University of Texas professor put it, this wasn't just a hearing. It was a masterclass in accountability. Crockett showed that when truth is armed with evidence, even the most powerful can be made to answer. For millions of Americans who saw Abbott's face drain of color and his lips fail him, the message was clear. Silence is not strength, it is surrender. Jasmine Crockett had entered that chamber a rising star. She left it a national force, living proof that courage and truth can still change the script. And Greg Abbott? His legacy would forever carry those 30 seconds of silence. 30 seconds when the truth finally caught him.